My name is Naomi. I want to tell you my story. My story is one of sadness and loss, bitterness and hope. It begins many years ago when I was a young bride. My husband, Elimelech, he was a good man. He was a good match, my parents. They were so pleased, especially in that time. The times they were so dangerous. There was no king. Was dangerous on the roads everywhere. There were just judges every now and again. Someone would come and make the law and save us. But who knows what? Other times, everybody did whatever they wanted. Each to their own. It was a dangerous time. We were supposed to be people of the law, people of Yahweh, but there was not much law. Oh, of course, we knew the stories. We knew Yahweh, He had brought us out of Egypt. But now, we had no Moses, we had no Joshua. Who could read the law to us? For I did not know the law. And so each person did whatever they could just to survive. But of course, we had our home, our community. We lived here in Bethlehem. Was beautiful where Rachel was buried. But everything was fine until the famine came. It's ironic, really. Bethlehem means house of bread. But there was no bread at all in the house of bread. I had my boys by then, Machlon and Kilian. They were my delight. To have sons was so blessed by Yahweh. They were young and strong, but as the famine kept on, it felt like Yahweh had abandoned us. I watched my strong, healthy boys grow thinner and thinner. There is nothing worse than watching your own children starving to death, knowing there is nothing for them. You know, I had heard a story from the law once. It said that mothers in Jerusalem, they would eat their sons as a curse from Yahweh. You know, I would have died first and let my sons eat me before I would let that happen. So, what were we to do? When Elimelech suggested we go to Moab, there is food there, I agreed. What choice did I have? I would stay here in Bethlehem and watch my children starve. Maybe I should have trusted Yahweh and turned to Him. But there was no question. The skies were like rock, and fear was God. So we went. We sold whatever we had for the journey. We told ourselves it wasn't so far. We said it would just be for a little while, like Abraham, like Jacob. They went to Egypt during famine. We would come back stronger, maybe even wealthier. And so it was good for a little while, settled in Moab. But then, disaster. Suddenly, there was no compass, no protection. What can I do? I have my boys. I am survivor. So I find wives for my boys, Ruth and Orpah. They're such good girls. And we carry on. And I think, yes, there will be grandchildren. And I wait, and I wait. And 10 years, there are no children. And then my sons both die. And then I know this is no accident. This is Yahweh. He is punishing me. He is punishing me for leaving Bethlehem, for not trusting Him. And I am so angry. I am angry at Yahweh. How dare he? Where was he when we needed him, when there was no food? And slowly my anger turns to bitterness. The bitterness of being a widow, a leftover, a remnant. You know, that is what it means. Time passed, and I heard there was bread again in Bethlehem. I had a longing to return and see my people again. I wondered if Yahweh would be the same, or maybe kinder now. I grew curious and restless. And finally I said to my daughters, Ruth and Orpah, shall we go back to Judah? And they agreed. So we went. So as we walked, I thought, I remembered things from the past. And I realized how different I was from the young bride, the young mother who had left Judah. I was so full of joy and hope then, and now I had nothing. I was empty, bereft, not even sure of my face anymore. What was I thinking? A woman, a widow, going back to my people where men are everything. How could I hope to survive even? Suddenly I turned to the girls. Go back. Go back to your mothers. I have nothing. I have nothing to offer you. I cannot give you more children. You will be strangers in a foreign land. There is nothing for you. Go back to your homes. I give you permission. Well, they were such good girls. Of course, I insisted. They insisted they would come with me forever, but no. Eventually, Orpah, she was a practical girl. She turned back, go back to her mother. I thought, I am sad, but it's a good idea. It's the best. She will grow, she will love again. But Ruth refused to leave. She insisted she would stay with me forever. She would be with my people. She would make them her people. She would make my Yahweh. She would make him her God instead of Chemos. I did not understand then what it was she had seen. But she had seen through my emptiness and my bitterness, and she had seen Yahweh. And she had seen a God who saw her for who she was and valued her. I don't know how she saw this, but she did. And it made her want to know Yahweh more, to see a God, to know a God that knew her as a woman, not some part of a man, but for herself. And so we carried on, but it was a quiet journey. I was disturbed. I couldn't stop thinking and wondering, now what? What was the future for her, for us? Would Yahweh show himself to us? How? We were two women alone, one a foreigner to Yahweh. How could Yahweh accept her, or me, for that matter? Walking gives so much time for thinking, and I thought a lot on that road. But finally, enough walking, enough thinking. We are there. We returned to Bethlehem. Maybe this is the hardest thing, to return to a place after you have been away, where you were once known. Then I really understood how much I had changed. I saw it in their faces, the disbelief. Is it Naomi? Really? But she's so changed. Imagine it. Imagine. Yahweh must have punished her so much. And who is that woman with her? It's Ruth. It's who? A Moabite. But I saw what they were thinking. I have always been one to say things straight. So I said, don't call me Naomi. Even my name did not fit me anymore. Life was not some pleasant picnic like my name to go and just enjoy. Life was hard. Life had been hard to me. And now I came to this land and I saw Yahweh everywhere. And I realized I belonged here with Yahweh, but it didn't make me happy. Instead, I said, call me Mara, bitter because I am so empty. There is nothing here. I think that was the start of my unraveling. To say publicly how bitter I was, it began to undo the harm, the burden I had carried all that time. I started to see Yahweh and to acknowledge Him. I marveled that we had come so far on this road to Bethlehem, unharmed. The roads were not safe, and that I had Ruth with me. What a blessing she was. She understood my former life. She knew my sons as they were adults. And slowly I came to see Yahweh, His loving kindness, His hesed. Ruth, bless her, was not content to be idle. She wanted to work. She saw our situation. No one else was going to put food on the table. So she was young and strong, and she went to work, gleaning, where they pick up the extra bits people leave behind. So I told her, yes, go try it. And she went. Well, she went straight to the field of Boaz, who was a good man. He was a relative, but relatives are not always good, are they? They can be just as horrible as other people. So I was pleased when she went to Boaz. And this is when I see this is Yahweh working. How come she just went straight to that field? And she comes home and she tells me these stories. She is young and strong and getting so healthy. I am so pleased. Of course, my mind was working. We could not stay like this. Well, of course I could, but she could not. What of her future? I'm an older woman, a widow, a remnant, but she still had time. She could not remain alone in this foreign land. So I am thinking what to do. Boaz had shown himself to be a good man, honorable, generous, but he hadn't done anything else about Ruth or Elimelech or the land belonging to our family. Of course, he was busy at harvest. All men are busy with something, of course. But sometimes you just have to shove something in front of their nose to make them realize. I suppose that's what I did then, really. Maybe people will say that I did wrong, that I used Ruth, that I made her seduce him. I do not think so. I was always quite practical too. A woman has to use whatever she has at her disposal, which in our case was not much. So, did I force his hand? I don't think so. Perhaps I nudged him to think about things he hadn't thought about before. Well, I think Yahweh was in this, of course. But He allows us to use our human resources, our wits, and our bodies to accomplish His work. We were just two widowed women, but God used us all the same. So, I told Ruth to bathe and dress carefully with perfume. No more widow's clothes, although she would need to keep warm on the threshing floor. And watch Boaz carefully where he lies down, and when he is asleep, go and lie at his feet. It was a risky plan, and without Yahweh, it could have been disaster. Imagine the scandal if Boaz had woken up and thought Ruth was prostitute. The end, the end of any marriage then. Or if he thought, oh, you wily Moabite, you'll get close into me. Well, that would be the end. But Yahweh was there, and he made it happen. Boaz, he was a good man, but he just needed a little nudge. And so we needed him to do the legal thing, which he did, because Boaz, he also trusted Yahweh, trusted his loving kindness. And the legal thing, of course, was to marry Ruth and to redeem the land. But there's another man, another relative, but he does not want to. Maybe he knows things about relatives, families. Yeah, they are not always good, you know. So Boaz, he marries Ruth, and this is where Yahweh's loving kindness is always. He marries Ruth, he takes the land, and Elimelech's name will continue, and Boaz. You know, it seems so obvious that, of course, they would have a child, a son. But you know, I could not hope. I could not believe that that might actually happen. I had already waited 10 years once. I know this does not happen unless God wills it. But God did will it. A boy named Obed, a fulfillment of so many things. As I look back now, I can see things so much more clearly now. When my sons were gone, I thought it was the end. There was nothing to be remembered by. Our name was gone forever, I thought. And when we have such loss, we want that loss to have meaning. When someone dies so young, we want them to be remembered in some way. So we set up funds, we change the procedure, we crave the meaning for someone, especially those we love. People look at me and think I am a role model. I am not that. I am an ordinary woman who did what she could with her resources at her available. You know someone like me. Perhaps you even are me. You know someone who has traveled from their home and is away from those they love. Or maybe you know them, they have come back and they are a changed person and different from what you knew. Perhaps you are me and you have experienced some of those things and you cannot understand and you blame God. I am fortunate. I had a son, and he became the grandfather of a king. And he ultimately, he became in the line of Christ, of the Messiah. But I did not feel like some exciting part of Yahweh's plan when I was on the road back to Bethlehem. We cannot always know what God's plan is, but it is important to stay in trusting Yahweh. Sometimes we cannot make sense of the plan, and we become bitter and empty at God, at Yahweh. like I was. But if we see Yahweh and trust Him and trust His loving kindness, this is to be a part of His plan and to be a part of His creation, which is what He has created us to be.